Hey everybody, it's Collin Floyd, process engineer at Gibbs Die Casting, and today I'm going to be talking to you about session 2 of the JA Career Success modules, which is all about communication. In the last session we focused on creative thinking and, well, actually critical thinking and creativity. This session, as I mentioned a second ago, we're going to be talking about communication skills. So, communication is defined as the process of sharing thoughts, questions, ideas, and solutions. As far as communication is concerned, it's important that we understand that it goes beyond words. The way that we dress, the way that we position ourselves, our posture, and how well we pay attention when people are speaking to us are different ways that we communicate. By acting or behaving in a way that I don't seem like I'm interested in what somebody's saying, by slouching, or just dressing like I don't care, it sends a message. Everything that we do sends a message for the most part, and so really important to be aware of whatever message that we're sending, especially in the workplace, even at school. So be aware of those things. Also, there's a difference between work and school. So, well, I say work and school, but also work and home, and school and home. So the way that we behave at school, with our peers, with teachers, is going to be different than the way that we behave at home, or even on the playing field. If you play sports or whatnot, the way that we behave in each one of these places all require a different kind of behavior. And these are just generally accepted ways for us to behave in these different places. How I communicate with my sister at home is going to be completely different than the way that I communicate with my boss at work, or even coworkers at work, for that matter. I may not be talking about what I watched last night, or what I had for dinner, or my plans for the weekend with people at work, while that may be something I do with my siblings, or with a girlfriend, so on and so forth. All right, so it's important to be aware of that. In the last session, we discussed businesses and their need for employees that will take the company's interest and make that a priority and not their own personal interest. That takes a lot of effort and a lot of practice to remain professional and respectful at work with your boss, coworkers, and especially with customers. Really customers. They're the hardest ones to really get along with, in my opinion. All right. So, tips for workplace communication. We need to choose our words very carefully. You can't take words back, especially emails. On my job, I send a lot of emails, and how well I send those emails and who I send them to are very important things, because those things are permanent at that point. If I send an email out of anger, I can't take those words back. Somebody has it forever, no matter how I behave afterwards, how much I apologize. They're going to always remember me for whatever email that I sent in that situation. So, not necessarily even just what you say. Writing an email correctly is going to be really important. When you have bad grammar, when you leave out words, those reflect really badly, and those reflect on how people perceive you and how much they want to work with you or even communicate with you. You can make your job a lot more difficult by not communicating well in what you're trying to communicate. All right. So, as I said, you need to choose your words really carefully for writing and speaking, and you want to avoid using slang and casual terms. For example, I had a team member that I worked with that would send out emails, going back to the email thing. He sent them very poorly. He would always misspell things, he'd use slang on stuff, and one of those things that just kind of went around the office or around work was like, we know what emails were coming from so-and-so because of how poorly they were spelled, and just kind of the overall tone of it. When you do that, people generally don't like giving you things to do, especially from that perspective. And then it kind of shows just how professional you are also. So being able to do those things well, surprisingly, is not something that everybody learns out the gate. So being able to do those well will give you a foot ahead on a lot of people when you enter the workforce, or even right now in your lives. So, tips for workplace communication. You want to stay professional in your nonverbal communication. All right. Think of signaling, how the way we message to individuals. I signal by how upright I'm sitting, if I smile, or if I'm frowning, or if I seem disinterested, or just how attentive I am to whatever it is the person communicating to me is. Just imagine in your own case, whenever you've been talking to somebody and you can tell that person isn't interested in what you're having to say, you feel less likely to communicate with that person going forward. And when we decide that we don't want to communicate with somebody, a lot of information gets lost. So being aware of how we behave in communicating is really important. Eye contact. You want to make eye contact to the people that you're speaking with. That's really important. It shows that you're interested. It shows that you're giving them your undivided attention. And that makes the person a lot more receptive and more likely to communicate with you going forward. Let's see. At work, you don't want to look bored or angry because both of those things call out to people like supervisors. When a person comes by and they see you really bored or angry about something, you're going to draw their attention. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Maybe if you're having issues, okay, but your employer is going to want to make sure that you're at your peak performance. And when you're sending signals like that, all it does is draw attention, and that's a negative thing in a lot of cases. All right. So another tip for workplace communication is you want to practice active listening. Active listening is being attentive when a person's speaking to you, listening to what they have to say, and ultimately providing good feedback to what they have to say. If you're sitting there the whole time thinking about what you're going to say back to them, you're not really listening to what they have to say. You're going to get only part of the message, and when finally time comes for you to give some kind of feedback, it's going to be half-hearted and not very useful for that person. If that person decided they want to entrust you with whatever information it was that they're going to give to you, you want to make sure that you give back to them just as well as they gave. So being able to make eye contact, listen well, and pick up on the overall message of what the person's telling you is a skill, and basically what we want to call active listening. You also want to avoid interrupting to provide your own value to their experience. Sometimes active listening is just listening, not waiting for feedback, but being able to listen to a person, digest what they have to say to you, and moving on. Sometimes communication is really a one-way street overall, so be aware of that also. All right. So also you want to avoid multitasking. Multitasking is a myth. You can't do multiple things at one time really well. Something's going to suffer in that situation. If you think that you can sit there and write while a person's talking to you and you're supposed to be listening to them, that's going to be really hard to do. I know that seems really against the idea of taking notes during a lecture or whatnot, but at the same time too, you have to be aware that while you are taking notes, it's going to be kind of hard to also at the same time listen to your professor or teacher for your matter and take those notes. Trying to digest what you're hearing from that person is almost always going to be better. And if you're something that you can do, record what you're listening to and go back later on and take notes on the things that you need to take notes on, if that's something that you can do. That's not going to always be possible for you, I get that. So in the workplace, it's unprofessional to be looking at your phone or working on a computer while someone's trying to speak to you. Pause and give the speaker your undivided attention. By using these tips for workplace communication, you can project a positive image for yourself and the company that you represent. So conflict management. Conflict is a disagreement over opinions, principles, or interests. There's familial conflict, conflict that you have between people that you have at home, and then there's also like workplace conflict. You're not going to always agree with each other. That's just a given. If everybody agreed with each other and we all had groupthink, we'd never have any form of innovation and we would never really get anywhere. So it's important to understand that we're going to have conflict, and the way that we manage that conflict really sets us out as individuals. Okay? So conflict management is the process of handling conflict fairly between people with opposing needs, ideas, or goals. So while it's important to use good communication skills every day, it becomes even more important when conflict arises at work. All right. And on my job, I have conflict all the time. We all have different goals for each of our departments that all go towards the same goal. Sometimes me trying to achieve my goal can get in the way of other people doing their goal, even if at the end of the day they all benefit one another. Finding how to do so in a way that doesn't break down all activity is a skill. Just understand that that's something you're going to deal with as far as work's concerned, and it's something that you're dealing with as far as life's concerned. So, why is conflict management important? Conflicts are going to happen. People will disagree. As an employee, you're expected to handle work conflicts with your mind, not your emotions. Blowing up isn't going to help you whenever you get mad. You know, it's just going to shut everything down, and it's going to bring your need as an employee into question. All right. So, I actually had a team member that didn't communicate very well and didn't handle conflict very well. So whenever somebody would tell him that he wasn't doing something correctly, his first reaction would be always to blow up and get angry and tell that person off for the most part. Needless to say, that individual didn't stay employed with us for very long. So that's one thing to be mindful of also. So also remember that conflict is normal. You shouldn't avoid conflict. If you go along to get along all the time, again, that's one of those things you're not going to be able to advance as far as work is concerned. You're not going to have innovation. You're just going to be stagnant, and that's a problem in itself also. So be aware of that, and know that people that aren't able to handle conflicts are usually the people that don't end up having jobs. All right. So why is conflict management important? If conflicts are handled well, there can be a higher quality and a better work atmosphere. If conflict festers, it costs businesses money and employees a lot of time, money, and energy. So those are all very good reasons why we need to handle conflict management well. So in review, employers want and need employees with good workplace communication skills. Learning to deal with conflict is crucial to your success, not only in work but in life. And finally, in our next session, we're going to be discussing collaboration and creativity to excel at work. So we're going to have an activity next. We're going to complete an activity on using good conflict management skills in the workplace.